President Trump is overseeing the best peacetime labor markets and economy in modern history as 2020 election looms. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about the U.S. economy and how it's basically roaring heading into the 2020s. President Trump is going to have an incredibly strong record to run on in 2020 with better trade deals, deregulation, and tax cuts that have led to the best labor market conditions in over 50 years, really in modern history. You have 3.5% unemployment, and that is just outstanding. We haven't seen unemployment this low since 1969. Which is really saying something because during that time you had the Vietnam War going on, and so you didn't even have full capacity of working age adults in the labor markets, whereas today you do. And we're boosting labor participation among 16 to 64-year-olds. But really, you have to go back to 1969 for 3.5% unemployment, and that was during wartime. Here you have peacetime, 3.5% unemployment, and that's just outstanding news. Also, 6.7 million jobs have been created since January of 2017 when President Trump took office. And so that's going to bode really well, I think, in 2020 this year, and how voters are going to respond to that. In 2019, 1.1 million more 16 to 64-year-olds, these are working age adults, have found jobs, even as the population of 16 to 64-year-olds actually declined by 238,000 in 2019, and that's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, their latest average annual seasonally unadjusted data. And that's great news. That means that people who were struggling to entering the labor force during the Obama years from 2009 to 2016 are re-entered the labor force now. And there's some favorable demographics along with that. Baby boomers are retiring, creating more mobility in labor markets for 16 to 64-year-olds, working age adults who are now entering as the boomers retire. As well as declining rates of those without high school diplomas. That generation without high school diplomas, they're largely dying off now, and you have a lower unemployment rate for those with high school diplomas and some college or college degrees. And as the amount of education rises and the amount of people, the percentage of the population that is educated rises, the unemployment rate should go even lower than what you're seeing right now. And so there's some favorable demographics there, but Trump is absolutely going to have a great record economically to run on either way. When things go wrong, people tend to blame the incumbent party. When things are going right, then therefore the incumbent party, in this case Trump and Republicans, will probably get credit for it in the 2020 election. Now, the improvement for working age adults comes largely since 2016 and comes as a critical time among working age adults where the participation had been dropping, labor participation from 1997 through 2016, save for 2006. So you only saw a slight leveling off of labor participation for working age adults in 2006, but then it kept on declining all the way through, including 2015. That's when it bottomed. In 2016, it started to improve again, just in time for President Trump to get elected. But in 2016, this represented, if you had gone with the very high 1997, 77.4% labor participation amongst working age adults, that if it had remained that in 2016, you would have had 9 million additional working age adults in the labor markets, but they weren't there. Since the financial crisis and the dot-com bust, the labor participation had been declining. And again, it hit a low in 2015 to 72.6%, and now we've rebounded slightly to 74.1% in 2019. So that's great news, and that represents about 2.3 million of those working age adults who had been on the sidelines that have re-entered the U.S. economy under the Trump economy, and that's great news. But it was 2 decades of lost generation of opportunity for millions after the recessions of the early 2000s, and we still have not fully recovered from that, really, leaving a lot of room to grow. And so this goes back to the point where the unemployment rate could actually go even lower than what you're seeing right now, this 50-year low of 3.5%. And I think it's going to go lower. People are going to be surprised by that. Within 16 to 64-year-old age group, the majority of the job gains have actually been for females, with 2.7 million new jobs for 16 to 64-year-old women. But men are doing well as well. They did 2.1 million more jobs for working age males. And men tend to work at a higher participation rate than females. But so the reason you're seeing more females entering is because that there's more room to grow there, frankly. Unemployment for blacks and Hispanics remains near historic lows as well. 487,000 new manufacturing jobs have been created. And this all makes the Trump economy one of the most equitable in American history. Everyone who wants a job can find a job, and it's benefiting all groups, all demographics, men, women, whites, minorities, and so forth. Everyone's benefiting from the Trump economy. There are some favorable demographics there, but to the victor goes the spoils. You have a great economy. Trump's running for reelection, and that's going to redound to his benefit. The good news economically comes is that those developments I think are likely to continue for the next several years, barring a recession, of course, which promise to drive the unemployment rate even lower than its currently historically low numbers. And I'll leave you with the close here. Finally, for those who, for partisan reasons alone, were aspiring for an economic downturn sometime before the end of the year in the hopes that it would oust President Trump in November, you might not want to hold your breath. This economy is great, making a strong case for Trump's reelection in 2020, where he can point to his tax cuts, deregulation, and better trade deals, U.S., Mexico, Canada agreements about to be adopted. He's got a verbal agreement in principle with China. We'll see how that goes. There's also agreements with South Korea and Japan. President Trump promised to reshape the U.S. relationship globally using trade, and now it seems to be working. He's getting new deals, and we're getting more jobs for the U.S. economy, 6.7 million jobs since January of 2017, and we're also seeing 3.5%, the lowest unemployment in 50 years since 1969, and it's all going to work out for Trump, I think, in 2020. And he can make a case on the better trade deals, tax cuts, deregulation being the biggest difference makers, where everyone who wants a job can find one. It's tough to argue against success. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.